They used to call me No One. The girl who arrived in the border village, wrapped in silence and soot, clutching nothing but a bundle of dried herbs. To them, I was just another orphan drifting from the ruins of a forgotten pack. Nameless, scentless, convenient to ignore. That anonymity became my shield. If no one noticed me, no one could hunt me. I learned to survive in the cracks of other people's lives. I mended wounds, gathered roots, whispered prayers over the dying. The villagers said I had a healer's hands, steady, calm, untouched by tremor or pride. They didn't know what those hands had done to survive. But sometimes, when the moonlight touched my skin, the secret I'd buried for 20 years betrayed me. Beneath my left collarbone was a mark faint as a bruise, yet burning when I dreamed. A silver crescent framed by two intersecting lines. The royal sigil of the Lunarian bloodline. A house that no longer existed. The last of them were slaughtered in the purge. Their heirs burned, their names erased. I was just a child when I escaped through smoke. No one must ever see that mark again. So I became Alara, a name borrowed from a dead child whose grave I tended. I kept my sleeves long and my head bowed. I spoke only when healing was needed, and kept away from mirrors, for even my reflection seemed dangerous. The kingdom beyond the border was stirring. Word reached our settlement that the Alpha King, Kalen Dragor, sought a bride. Not for love, but for alliance. The marriage would seal peace among the fractured packs after decades of war. To most, it was politics. To me, it was prophecy whispering too close. The village buzzed with gossip. Names of noble daughters circled like vultures, powerful families, pristine bloodlines, women bred to stand beside a throne. And yet, through what they called a bureaucratic mishap, a letter arrived sealed in royal wax, addressed to me. By decree of His Majesty's Council, you are hereby summoned to the capital as a candidate for the Luna Bond ceremony. The elders laughed first, thinking it a clerical error. A healer from the border? A woman with no lineage, no pack scent, no claim to nobility? Impossible. But the guards came anyway, steel and silver at their sides, orders in hand. I tried to refuse. The summons was not a request, it was law. Refusal meant death or exile. So I stood before them. Quiet. Trembling only once when they bound my wrists not with rope, but with silk chains, a gesture meant to mock. So the king will see how delicate the border rats truly are, one said, tightening the knot with a grin. If only they knew what these hands had done. The journey to the capital lasted 4 days and nights. I kept my eyes on the horizon, the mountains like the backs of sleeping wolves. Each mile stripped away another layer of safety, the anonymity that had kept me alive. The guards didn't speak much. When they did, it was about me. She doesn't even have a scent. Maybe the veil hides the scars. The king will dismiss her by dawn. I let them talk. I'd learned long ago that words reveal more about the speaker than the subject. At dusk, I caught my reflection in the carriage window, pale face, dark eyes, the faint shimmer of the forbidden mark pulsing beneath my neckline. I pressed my hand over it, whispering the mantra my mother once taught me. Hide what you are until the moon calls your name. On the final night, the capital lights appeared golden, endless, cruel. The palace spires cut through the mist like spears of judgment. I had imagined this city once, back when I still believed in fairy tales. Now I saw it for what it was. A cage built of marble and law. At the gates, attendants met me with a garment draped in moon-white silk. They slipped it over my plain healer's robes and drew a veil across my face. I did not resist. To them, I was unworthy to be seen, a token, a placeholder, a political pawn. They whispered that the Alpha King would never even lift the veil. That this was a formality, a ceremony to appease spirits, nothing more. Let them think that. Let them underestimate the nobody. As the gates creaked open and torches flared, I felt the faint pulse beneath my collarbone, the sigil awakening, burning like a buried star. They led me forward, the silk chains glinting in torchlight, every step echoing in the marble courtyard. The courtiers' laughter faded as I passed. Something in the air shifted a low hum of unease, as if instinct itself recognized me, even when reason did not. I lowered my head, hiding the flicker of silver beneath the veil. For 20 years I had hidden in the shadows. Tonight, the shadows were escorting me to the throne. And though they didn't know it yet, the girl with no name was coming home. The first thing I feel is softness. Not pain, not blood, not the rough earth beneath my back, just silk. Layers of it, cool, and impossibly smooth, sliding against my skin. For a long, suspended second, I lie still, waiting for the ache to return. It doesn't. No throbbing in my ribs. No burning where the blade went in. Only silence. When I finally open my eyes, the world hits me in color and gold. A chandelier glimmers overhead, crystals swaying gently like trapped stars. Curtains the shade of rose quartz drape from ceiling to floor. The air smells of lavender oil and polished silver. It's wrong. Too clean, too perfect, too alive. I sit up fast or try to. My arms wobble like they belong to someone else. My balance is off. My muscles don't respond the way they should. I swing my legs over the edge of the bed and realize even my feet look smaller, pale, unscarred. What in the hell? The door bursts open before I finish. 2 young maids rush in, nearly tripping over their own skirts. "My lady." One squeals. "You're awake." "Oh, praise the goddess," the other gasps, pressing a hand to her chest. They rush toward me so fast, I nearly reach for my dagger, except there's no dagger. No armor. No familiar weight of weapons against my thigh. Just silk sheets and trembling hands. "Stay back," I warn. But my voice, gods. My voice comes out wrong. It's soft, high. The sound of someone who's never barked orders over a battlefield or screamed through pain. The maids freeze, wide-eyed. "You can speak," one says, teary with relief. "Of course I can speak," I snap, then immediately choke on how sweet it sounds, like honey and glass. They exchange worried glances. "Shall we fetch the lady mother?" "The lady who?" Before they can answer, another presence sweeps into the room, a woman in emerald silk, perfume thick enough to drown in. Her beauty is deliberate, sharp as a blade. "My darling Lysandra," she coos, reaching for me with manicured hands. "You gave us such a fright." I flinch before I can stop myself. "Who are you?" calling. She presses a jeweled hand over my mouth. "Shh, my dear, the doctor said not to agitate yourself." Her scent hits me pure omega, sweet and cloying. It makes the wolf inside me stir uneasily. I fought beside alphas and betas my whole life, but this scent doesn't belong to any rank I know. It feels submissive, yet commanding, wrong in every direction. The woman fusses with the blankets, muttering to the maids about fevers and dowries and the wedding. I catch half her words through the haze in my head. "I think there's been a mistake." I try again, pushing her hand aside. "I'm not this Lysandra person." Her expression freezes. Slowly, she turns toward me, eyes narrowing like a snake sensing weakness. "Lysandra Evangeline Vittoria," she says, voice dripping venom. "You will not jest about such things. Not after the scandal you've already caused." I blink. Once. Twice. Scandal? The maids stare at the floor as if the word itself might strike them down. The woman, apparently my new mother, sighs in that long-suffering, noble way that could sour milk. "The engagement is delicate enough as it is. The Alpha King's patience runs thin. Do not make me beg for your dignity, daughter." "Alpha King?" I repeat, heartbeat lurching. Every muscle in me goes cold. There's only one Alpha King I know, Micah Dragor. The tyrant I've spent years hunting. The man who burned half our lands to ash. It can't be. The woman pats my cheek absently, missing the horror in my eyes. "You'll have an audience soon, of course. The king has requested to see you." I shake my head. No, 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 this isn't possible." She mistakes my panic for nerves. "Compose yourself, Lysandra. Remember your lessons. Smile softly, speak little, and never, ever meet his eyes until he speaks to you first." I look down at my hands, delicate, flawless, no scars, no calluses. Not mine. My body feels smaller, the bones lighter, the muscles weaker. Even my heartbeat sounds dainty. It's like being trapped in a porcelain doll that breathes. The maids whisper near the doorway. "Should we prepare her gown?" "Yes, the king awaits." I force myself to stand, gripping the bedpost. The floor feels too far away, like gravity forgot who I used to be. My reflection catches in a nearby mirror, gold hair, cascading down unfamiliar shoulders, eyes wide and pale blue like moonlight over snow. The face that looks back at me is beautiful, fragile, everything I'm not. My breath catches. What did you do to me? I whisper to no one. The woman in emerald pauses at the door, already bored. What's that, dear? I can't answer. I'm too busy staring at the stranger, staring back from the glass, her lips trembling, her gown slipping from her shoulders like spilled silk, and then the door opens again. A soldier steps inside, bowing low. His Majesty sends word, he announces. The Alpha King wishes to see you. The world tilts. I might be wearing silk, but it feels like shackles. They said the Alpha King's court was built on bones. Now I believe it. The throne room stretches like a cathedral of predators, stone ribs arching above, banners stitched with bloodlines that survived conquest. Light slants through colored glass, painting the marble in red and gold. I stand at the far end, half hidden behind the crowd of courtiers, pulse hammering beneath borrowed silk. The last time I entered a royal court, it was to burn it down. Trumpets sound, sharp enough to split thought. The guards along the aisles slam their spears to the floor in unison. I know that rhythm, it's not ceremony, it's warning. Something is being presented, then I see him, Kai, alive, whole, dressed in silver armor and smugness. He strides between the guards as if he owns the floor, every movement rehearsed, every step calculated to be just slow enough to command awe. Behind him, two soldiers carry a long bundle draped in white linen. The world tilts. My fingers go cold. No, I know that shape. The curve of the shoulders, the weight of it. They stop before the dais, where Alpha King Micah sits broad-shouldered, eyes like burning coals beneath a circlet of black iron. His son, Prince Rafe, stands slightly behind him, arms folded, silent as shadow. Kai kneels, pressing one hand to his chest. My king, he says, voice slick with reverence. I bring a gift. Micah's gaze flickers toward the linen. A gift? A token of loyalty, Kai replies, smirking faintly. Proof that the border wars are truly over. Proof that I have eliminated the last rebel threat to your reign. A whisper rolls through the room. Micah gestures lazily. Unveil it. I can't breathe. The soldiers obey. The linen unfurls with a soft hiss, and my world stops moving. My own face stares back at me, cold, still. A faint scar over the brow, one I earned at 15 in my first battle. The chest wound gapes like a flower. My hair, matted with dried blood, spills across the marble like black silk. My body. My corpse. The air leaves my lungs in one silent gasp. For a moment, I'm not in Lyssandra's fragile skin anymore. I'm that warrior again, sprawled in the dirt, feeling the blade slide between my ribs, hearing Kai whisper, "Forgive me." Now he stands there, offering my death like an offering bowl. The demon wolf, Kai declares, loud enough for the walls to hear. Slain by my hand, in your name. The courtiers erupt gasps, applause, laughter tangled together. They cheer as if a monster's head has been brought home. I taste iron on my tongue. They're celebrating me, my death. Micah rises, slow, heavy. You're certain? Kai bows his head. I watched her fall. I burned her camp myself. Her pack is scattered, the rebellion is done. The king steps forward, eyes raking the body. His voice is quiet, dangerous. She haunted this land for years. You say you've ended her. I have, Your Majesty. The wars are over. Kai lifts his chin, and in that moment, I see it, the pride, the lie. He's not swearing loyalty, he's performing victory. Micah nods once. Then peace begins. Applause fills the hall again. The nobles shout toasts to Kai's name, calling him Alpha Savior, Wolf Slayer. The title burns in my ears. I want to scream, to tell them I'm here, watching, breathing inside the stolen skin of a woman too soft for this world. But the words won't come. My throat is tight with disbelief and fury. My gaze drifts to Rafe. He hasn't moved since the unveiling. His face is unreadable, but his eyes, gods, his eyes fix on the corpse with something like sorrow. He kneels beside it, brushing the hair from its face. For one heartbeat, I think he might look up and see me through this false body. He doesn't. But when he speaks, his voice carries through the silence. She was younger than I expected, he murmurs. For a legend, Micah grunts. Legends die like anyone else. Rafe looks at the blade wound, at the stillness. There's no triumph in him, only quiet regret. As if he's mourning an enemy he never truly hated. The irony twists like a knife. If he knew I was standing here alive, watching my own death turned into a royal performance, would he still bow to his father's justice? Or would he burn this hall to the ground, as I once dreamed to do? The guards lift my body again, carrying it toward the pyre hall for the ceremonial burning. The scent of herbs follows rosemary, sage, the mock fragrance of honor. I clutch the edge of my gown until silk cuts my palms. Every heartbeat drums the same vow. I will not let this end here. Kai walks past, the crowd parting to cheer him. Our eyes meet for half a second, and though he can't possibly recognize me inside this borrowed face, something in him hesitates. A flicker, instinct. Then he smirks, tilts his head in mock humility, and kneels before Micah. Your Majesty, he says, bowing low, my loyalty is yours, as is the peace I have purchased. The words echo like a curse. I glance back at Rafe. He's still by the corpse, hand hovering over its heart, lips moving soundlessly. A prayer, maybe. Or an apology. Whatever it isn't triumph. And that, more than anything, terrifies me. Because if even the Alpha King's heir looks upon my death and feels remorse, then maybe peace is not what they think it is. When I wake again, the world smells of lilac and smoke. For a moment, I don't know which part of me has survived the soldier, the sinner, or the specter they buried. My pulse still races from the nightmare, Kai's voice echoing through the hall, the applause that followed my death, the way they cheered as though they'd slain a monster instead of a woman. But I am not dead. Not yet. The sheets are too soft, the air too perfumed. This is not the healer's tent or a battlefield infirmary. This is the palace. My enemy's palace. My body feels foreign, but alive, fragile, yet breathing. The hands resting on the coverlet are still Lysandra's, smooth, unscarred, unearned. I move my fingers and watch them tremble like they belong to a stranger. Somewhere inside, my wolf still stirs, pacing, restless. I should be Ash, I whisper to the ceiling, but I'm not. The door bursts open before I can untangle the thought. 3 maids spill in, carrying trays of soup and folded silk. Their chatter fills the air like birdsong. Careful, don't spill that. The lady's complexion looks better today. She must eat, the prince will worry. The prince? Before I can ask, they're at my bedside, fluttering like nervous butterflies. My lady, the healers said the fever broke last night, one says breathlessly. The palace is in celebration. His Majesty has sent flowers, and Prince Raphael himself left word. The name slams into me like a blade. Raphael. Rafe. The son of the Alpha King. The heir who led the first charge against my rebellion. The man whose soldiers slaughtered my pack under his banner. And now I am his fiancé. The maids move around me, adjusting pillows, straightening my gown, treating me like a fragile treasure that must be kept pretty and intact. I watch them with a hollow calm, letting their words sink in one by one. Lady Lysandra, one continues cheerfully, you gave us quite the fright. Prince Raphael will be so relieved when he hears you're awake. He hasn't left the chapel since the announcement. Announcement? What announcement? I ask, though the answer coils in my gut before she speaks. The engagement ceremony, of course, the youngest says, with a shy smile. His Majesty has confirmed it. You and Prince Raphael are to be wed at the next lunar convergence. A laugh escapes me sharp, broken, wrong. You must be mistaken. They blink, confused. Your lady mother confirmed it herself. The Alpha King's decree is sealed. I sink back into the pillows, the weight of irony pressing against my ribs. I, Arya Storm, rebel of the eastern border, the so-called demon wolf who once swore to kill the royal line, am now promised to its heir. It's almost poetic, the kind of twist the moon goddess herself might write for amusement. While the maids continue their fussing, I turn my face toward the window. Beyond the silk curtains, I can see the towers of the palace stretching into fog, their stone facades carved with wolves, crowns, and flame symbols of the empire that burned everything I ever loved. And now, somehow, I'm its honored guest, or its ghost. The thought roots itself deep. I can't undo what's been done. I can't bring back my body, my name, my war, but I can finish what I started. I can use this disguise, this accident, this unwanted miracle. I will destroy Kai, not with fire, not with blood, but with silence, patience, and the face he thinks belongs to someone else. I picture his smirk, his bowed head before the king, his hands on the linen shroud that covered me. My pulse slows, steady now cold as strategy. The maids chatter on, mistaking my quiet for grief. "You'll see, my lady," one says kindly. "Prince Raphael is kind. You will grow to love him." Love. I nearly smile at that. I remember the battlefield, his eyes scanning the chaos, the moment our gazes met through smoke. He didn't know my name then, only the legend of the wolf who never surrendered. Now he will know me as his bride. The universe must be laughing. A knock interrupts the room's rhythm. A palace attendant enters, all rigid posture and polished boots. He bows low. "Lady Lysandra," he intones, "by order of His Majesty, you are summoned to attend the prince at midday. He awaits you in the rose garden." The maids squeal, bustling to dress me in lace and perfume, ignoring the way my shoulders stiffen. Their chatter turns to panic about colors, ribbons, and hairpins. Through it all, I stand before the mirror. The woman reflected there is radiant, fragile, untouchable, and inside her, I can feel the weight of every scar I ever earned, pressing against silk. The sight almost makes me laugh again. Lysandra Vittoria, future queen of the realm. Arya Storm, rebel ghost of the borderlands. Two faces in one mirror, one alive, one buried. I adjust the veil the maids pin into my hair, its pale shimmer hiding the fury in my eyes. If I am to haunt this palace, I'll do it beautifully. As the attendant bows again, gesturing toward the hall, the truth strikes me with chilling clarity. I am walking freely through the enemy's stronghold, and no one knows the dead are among them. They dressed me for war disguised as courtship. The maids called it a meeting gown, layers of silver chiffon that caught the light like frozen water. They tied ribbons around my wrists, fastened pearls into my hair, and left my throat bare. To them, this was ceremony. To me, it felt like armor of the wrong kind. Fragile, glittering, useless. As they led me through the marble corridors, my stomach twisted with a soldier's instinct. Every polished surface felt like an ambush waiting to happen. I was going to meet the Alpha Prince, the man who had once commanded my death. The air changed the moment I entered the rose garden. It wasn't the sweetness of the flowers that hit me first, but the silence. A soldier's silence, alert, measured, alive. Guards stood at attention along the edges, pretending to look away, but I could feel their eyes flick toward me every few seconds. And then I saw him, Rafe Dragor. He stood at the far end of the garden, back to me, shoulders squared beneath a dark coat that looked more suited for battle than conversation. The sunlight caught the faint streak of silver in his hair, too young for age, too old for peace. When he turned, the world felt smaller. He wasn't what I remembered from the battlefield. There, he'd been fury in motion, a hunter, a commander, a ghost in steel. Here, he was something else. Stillness dressed in control. His eyes, that cold, glacial gray, met mine, and for a heartbeat I forgot which mask I was wearing. He bowed slightly, the gesture precise, impersonal. "Lady Lysandra," he said, voice low, even. "You're awake. I was told your recovery was uncertain." Every instinct screamed to flinch, to bare teeth, to remind him who I really was. But I lowered my head instead, voice steady. "I recover quickly, Your Highness." He studied me in silence, the way one studies a weapon that doesn't quite belong in their hand. "You look different," he said at last. I froze. He didn't mean me, he meant her. Lysandra. Still, the words landed like a knife. "Different?" He frowned slightly. "Calmer. Perhaps the fever tempered your fire." If only he knew. I forced a polite smile, the kind noblewomen wear when they're trying not to die of boredom. Perhaps it burned away the part of me that talked too much. A hint of amusement ghosted across his lips there and gone again. "Then I'll consider the fever a blessing." He turned, gesturing toward a stone bench shaded by ivy. Please, sit. The tone wasn't commanding, it was courteous, careful. I didn't know what to do with that. Kai had spoken in heat and possession, always with a hand reaching, a voice that claimed. Rafe spoke as though the world were made of glass, and one wrong word could break it. I hated that difference because it made me curious. I sat, the silk of my gown sighing around me. He remained standing for a moment before joining me, leaving an exact, formal distance between us. Your father sends his regards, I offered, because it felt expected. His jaw tightened. My father sends many things. Regards are rarely among them. I shouldn't have smiled. But I did. It slipped out before I could stop it. For a heartbeat, his gaze softened not toward Lysandra, but toward something he didn't understand yet. And then the moment broke. A servant brought tea. I reached for the cup with the wrong hand, the one reserved for alphas in formal company. The maid gasped softly, eyes darting toward him. Rafe arched a brow. You seem different indeed. I'm left-handed, I lied, realizing too late that Lysandra wasn't. He said nothing, only lifted his own cup. The silence between us stretched thin. I filled it clumsily. You don't have to treat me like some fragile ornament, you know. The word was out before I could pull it back. You. The maids nearby inhaled sharply, like prey hearing a twig snap. One nearly dropped the teapot. Rafe blinked once, slowly. You, he repeated, as though tasting the word. I swallowed hard. My lord, I meant. He set his cup down, the faintest smile tugging at his mouth. No one has ever called me you before. I think I prefer it. I didn't know whether to laugh or hide under the tablecloth. Instead, I muttered, Then you're easily pleased. I'm rarely pleased, he said quietly, eyes cutting through me, and I believed him. The conversation died there, polite, awkward, layered with something I didn't have a name for, respect perhaps, or curiosity. When he finally rose, offering a hand to help me up, I hesitated. His fingers hovered near mine steady, unhurried. The enemy's hand. The same man whose soldiers once burned my camp. But his touch, when it came, was light. No claim. No pressure. Just presence. It shouldn't have disarmed me, but it did. Rest, he said simply. You'll need your strength for the council dinner tonight. Council? I asked, startled. He nodded. You're to be presented formally as my betrothed. My father insists. The word betrothed hit me like a blow I couldn't parry. He bowed again, and the moment ended. Guards opened the archway gates. I turned to follow the maids back through the marble halls, every step echoing with disbelief. That was when I heard it, two soldiers murmuring near the stairwell, their voices low. Captain Kai's quarters? One asked. Still under guard in the annex. Aye. His Majesty wants him kept close, says loyalty like that should be rewarded, but not trusted. The world slowed. Kai. Alive. Inside these walls. I didn't look back toward Rafe. I didn't speak, but inside, something cold and clear took shape, the purpose that had burned through death and rebirth alike. They think the demon wolf is dead. They think I'm a future queen. They're both right. I'd never been surrounded by so much gold and felt so small. The palace was a maze of marble and manners, every corridor perfumed, every word sharpened like glass. They called me my lady now, as if silk could erase the blood beneath my nails. Every time I smiled, it felt like treason against the woman I used to be. So that morning, when the weight of ribbons and etiquette became unbearable, I slipped away. The guards didn't question me the future queen, they whispered. Let her wander. Let her breathe. I found myself in the training yard. It was the one place that didn't gleam. The ground was dirt, trampled and scarred. Swords clashed, men shouted, the smell of sweat and iron filled the air. For the first time since waking in this cursed body, I felt something close to home. A group of soldiers stopped mid-practice when they noticed me. Their stares burned like torches. Well, one drawled, wiping his brow. If it isn't our new ornament. Another laughed. Careful, lads. That's the Alpha Prince's bride. Might chip her nails if she breathes too hard. The laughter rippled. I stood there in my embroidered gown and delicate slippers, every part of me screaming to hit something. My fingers twitched for a weapon that wasn't there. Do you train? I asked calmly. Or just talk? That earned me a few snickers and a raised brow from a broad-shouldered man leaning against the fence. His hair was iron gray, his expression unimpressed. Captain Hudson. I recognized the name from whispers, Rafe's old instructor, a man built from discipline and disdain. He looked me over as if assessing a cracked sword. And what would Lady Lysandra know of training? Enough to see you're wasting daylight. A hush fell. Even the sparring stopped. Hudson's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, not yet anger. You've got spirit, he said, but spirit doesn't stop a blade. Neither does arrogance. That did it. A few of the soldiers whistled. Someone muttered, Goddess help her. Hudson sighed, gesturing toward the rack of practice swords. Fine then. If your ladyship insists, perhaps a lesson will cure the boredom. I stepped forward, ignoring the maids who had followed me, whispering in panic. I kicked off the cursed slippers, grabbed a wooden sword that felt both too light and too strange, and faced him. The weight was wrong, this body wasn't mine. My grip lacked calluses, my stance felt off balance. Still, I raised the blade. Hudson didn't move. First rule, he said, never swing what you can't hold. Second rule, I replied, steadying my arm, never underestimate what looks delicate. He lunged first. The world snapped into clarity. Every motion, every sound, I saw it before it happened. Years of battle training flooded back, memory guiding muscle that wasn't mine. I ducked under his first strike, pivoted, and landed a light tap against his ribs. Gasps. A few laughs. Hudson straightened, eyes narrowing. Lucky. Calculated, I said. The second exchange came faster. He aimed for my shoulder, testing, not striking to wound. I twisted, feinted, and used his momentum to unbalance him. For one glorious second, it worked. The wooden blades crossed, my arm trembling from the impact, but I held firm. Then, my body betrayed me. My arms quivered, my grip loosened. The strength that once could fell wolves with a single swing was gone. Hudson saw it. He disarmed me with a twist and a sweep, knocking the sword from my hands and sending me to my knees in the dust. Silence. He offered me his hand. You lasted longer than most. I looked up, breathless, hair falling across my face. You fought like a man teaching a child. His expression softened. You fought like a soldier trapped in silk. Laughter, not mocking this time, rippled around the yard. Someone clapped. Then another. Soon the air filled with the rough, unpolished sound of warriors showing respect. It wasn't pity, it was acknowledgement. Hudson leaned close enough for only me to hear. You've got a fighter's eyes, my lady. Don't let anyone train it out of you. The words sank deep. For the first time since dying, I felt seen not as Lysandra, not as a royal bride, but as me. Again? I asked. He chuckled. Another day. The prince would have my hide if his bride limped to dinner. The soldiers laughed, some bowing mockingly, others grinning. To the fiercest lace in the palace, one shouted, and just like that, the mockery turned into camaraderie. For a few stolen hours, I wasn't a ghost or a noble. I was a warrior again, bruised, breathless, alive. When the session ended, they dragged me to a nearby tavern, a smoky, loud place tucked behind the barracks. The smell of ale and roasted meat clung to the air. Just one drink, someone said, for the lady who made the captain sweat. One turned into two, two into four. By the fifth, I was laughing real laughter, rusty but free. The soldiers cheered each time I outdrank them. I forgot about the lace, the titles, the ghosts. I forgot that my name was supposed to be Lysandra. Then someone asked, half drunk, "Where'd you learn to fight like that, my lady?" I opened my mouth and the truth slipped too close. From a man I should have killed. The table went silent. My heart stuttered. I forced a smile. A jest. I lied. Just a jest. The laughter returned, hesitant, but enough to hide my mistake. But as I raised my cup again, I felt it the danger I'd just unleashed. One slip, one word too sharp, and the ghost inside me might be unmasked. Still, I drank. Because for tonight, at least, I felt alive again. The tavern was alive too, alive for someone who died once already. Laughter clanged against wooden beams, mugs slammed in rhythm, and someone in the corner was trying to turn a war ballad into a drinking song. The air smelled of smoke, ale, and danger, my kind of perfume. Hudson had insisted I drink only one. He should have known better. By the third, I was standing on a chair, telling a half circle of grinning warriors how to properly stab an alpha without ruining your blade. Don't aim for the heart, I said, sloshing my mug for emphasis. That's too obvious. Go for the side left of the rib, quick and deep. Gets the job done. And you still get to gloat before they drop. The men roared with laughter. Someone shouted, "Where'd you learn that, Lady Lysandra?" Learned it? I hiccuped. I taught it. More laughter. Someone shoved another mug into my hand. The world was spinning beautifully, a carousel of faces, firelight, and freedom. I raised my drink, slurring grandly, "Do you know who I am?" Hudson groaned, pinching the bridge of his nose. Oh gods, here we go. I am. I squinted at my own hand like it held the answer. I am the terror of the night, the shadow in the places with shadows. Cheers. Whistles. A round of applause from soldiers who clearly thought I was joking. I bowed dramatically and nearly fell off the chair. Hudson caught me, strong hands steadying my waist. All right, my lady, time to sit before you start a war. Too late, I giggled, collapsing into his lap instead of the seat beside him. War started years ago. His face turned crimson. You can't sit here. Too late again, I said, patting his cheek. You're comfortable, big, smells like forest. He cleared his throat, looking around helplessly. The others laughed even harder. Someone get her some water. Water is for plants, I protested. I am a wolf. That earned another round of cheers, and then everything went quiet. The laughter died so fast it hurt my ears. The tavern's warmth vanished, replaced by something colder, heavier. Because Rafe had arrived. He stood in the doorway, framed by firelight. Every inch of him carved from control. His coat was unbuttoned at the collar, his hair slightly tousled, but the fury in his eyes made the whole room hold its breath. Captain, he said evenly. Hudson shot to his feet, which sent me sliding right off his lap and into Rafe's shadow. Your Highness, Rafe's gaze shifted to me, and I swear the world tilted. His expression wasn't cruel, just disappointed. Somehow that felt worse. My lady, he said quietly, have you forgotten what dignity looks like? I blinked at him, trying to focus. Dignity's overrated. Someone snorted. Rafe's glare silenced them instantly. He sighed, stepped forward, and before I could protest, he lifted me. Effortless. Like I weighed nothing at all. Put me down, I demanded, though my voice came out as a giggle. No, he said simply. I should have fought, should have been angry. But the steadiness of his arms, the smell of wood smoke and rain on his coat, it undid me. I stopped struggling. The soldiers watched in silence as he carried me out. For once, no one dared make a joke. He said nothing all the way back to the palace. His steps were long, sure, and silent, and I couldn't stop watching the line of his jaw. Rafe? I murmured, voice barely a whisper. He didn't answer. You're really warm, I mumbled against his shoulder. That's annoying. Still nothing. When we reached my chambers, he laid me gently on the bed, brushing stray curls from my face with a touch so careful it made my throat ache. You shouldn't drink like that, he said softly. You could have been hurt. Hudson wouldn't hurt me, I argued weakly. He thinks I'm pretty. Rafe's mouth twitched. That's not the point. I think you're prettier. The words slipped out, unfiltered, dangerous. He froze. You're drunk. And you're beautiful, I whispered, reaching up to touch his face. He caught my hand midair, not roughly, but firmly. Don't, he said, voice low. My fingers trembled in his grasp. You don't like me? He exhaled, long and heavy. That's not it. Then what? His eyes met mine, gray and storming. Because if I touch you now, it wouldn't be fair. You wouldn't mean it tomorrow. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong. But the warmth of his hand, the steadiness of his presence, it wasn't dominance, it was safety. And God's, I didn't know how to handle that. He pulled the blanket over me, his movements gentle, measured. Sleep, my lady. I caught his wrist before he could leave, my words slurred, heavy with exhaustion and truth. I'm only happy when you're here. He froze. For a moment, I thought he'd pull away. Instead, he brushed a stray curl from my forehead, his fingers lingering just long enough for my heart to forget how to beat. Then I'll stay, he whispered, and I fell asleep to the sound of his breathing, the only sound in a world that had finally gone quiet. The sunlight stabbed through the curtains like punishment. My head was pounding, the kind of ache that comes from both wine and regret. The events of last night floated back in fragments. Laughter, spilled ale, Rafe's steady hands carrying me through silence, his warmth beside me like a confession I hadn't meant to make. Then the door slammed open. Lysandra. The name cracked through the air like a whip. A tall woman swept in, all silks and fury. Her hair was silver gray, her eyes the exact shade of disapproval. I didn't need anyone to tell me who she was. I could feel it. Authority, bloodline, mother, Isolde. Do you realize what you've done? She hissed, crossing the room in 3 sharp steps. You humiliated the family. The prince's fiancé? Drunk in a tavern? On the lap of his captain? My mouth went dry. You what? She snapped. You've shamed your father's name, Lysandra. And after everything we've done to protect you, I stood too quickly, the room spun. I didn't ask for your protection. That stopped her cold. For a moment. Silence then. Her expression changed. Not anger now. Pity. You said that before, she whispered. The night we found you with the blade. The world tilted again, not from wine this time. What? She sat at the edge of the bed, hands trembling as they smoothed the sheets. You don't remember. I said nothing. Her voice softened, breaking around the edges. It was after Thomas left. After he was chosen by another. You locked yourself in your chambers. We found you before dawn. There was so much blood. Thomas. The name felt foreign in my mouth, but not to this body. Lysandra's memories stirred beneath mine, faint but aching. Images flickered. A young man's smile, laughter under willow trees, promises whispered like prayers, and then nothing but darkness. I sat down slowly. He left her, I murmured. Isolde nodded. Left you. For power. You thought your life was over. Her hand brushed mine motherly, cold. I thought you'd healed. I thought the engagement would give you purpose again. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw not a mother but another woman trying to keep a broken one alive. I'm not her, I wanted to say, but the truth was crueler. I was exactly her. Different story, same ruin. Lysandra's pain was quieter than mine, but it was built from the same stones, betrayal, loss, a world that saw us as decorations for men's wars. She had been crushed under affection, turned into control, while I'd been shattered by blades disguised as loyalty. Different cages, same hunger for freedom. When Isolde finally left, muttering something about propriety and breakfast, I stayed still for a long time. The ghosts of 2 women, her daughter and me, shared one fragile heartbeat. The dining hall was too bright. Silverware clinked like whispers. I found Rafe already seated, posture perfect, eyes unreadable. Good morning, he said, voice polite but cautious. Morning, I managed, lowering myself into the seat opposite him. A long silence stretched. The clatter of servants became unbearable. I owe you an apology, I blurted. His brow lifted slightly. For drinking? For being human. That earned me a faint smile. A rare confession in this palace. I watched his hands as he buttered his bread, careful, deliberate, as if even small motions required control. I wondered what kind of man hid behind such restraint. He caught me staring. You're quiet today. I've been thinking, I said softly, about cages. He paused mid-motion. Cages? How easily they're built. How pretty they look when you decorate them with silk. His gaze flickered, something tightening in his jaw. You speak like someone who's seen both sides of the bars. I met his eyes. Maybe I have. For the first time, his composure cracked not much, but enough for warmth to slip through. I don't know what haunts you, Lysandra, he said, voice low. But you can stop fighting ghosts when you're with me. My throat tightened. You don't understand. Maybe not, he said. But I'm trying. That broke something open in me, a fragile truce between two worlds. For the first time since wearing this body, I didn't feel completely alone. We ate in quiet companionship. For a fleeting moment, I almost believed in peace. Then a scent drifted through the air, faint, familiar, impossible. Wolfbane and lavender. My heart stopped. Only one person ever smelled like that, Willa. My second in command, my friend, my sister in war. I looked up sharply, scanning the servants. Most faces were strangers, but one maid, dark-haired, eyes lowered, moved differently. Every step too controlled, too aware. The scent lingered. She passed behind Rafe, pausing only a moment to refill his cup. Her gaze flicked to me, just once, enough to say I see you, then she was gone. I sat frozen, blood roaring in my ears. Rebellion hadn't died. It had followed me here, and for the first time since waking in this body, I realized the war was far from over. Night fell like a secret. The palace slept, or pretended to. The halls were dim, the air thick with incense and lies. I had shed the silk and lace hours ago now. I wore a servant's plain tunic, my hair bound tight beneath a scarf. The mask of Lady Lysandra was gone, only Arya remained. The ghost beneath the crown. I trailed the scent, faint but unmistakable. Willa's scent. Wolfbane and lavender. It clung to the walls like a memory I couldn't scrub clean. She moved quickly, silent through the servants' passageways. I kept my distance, heart pounding with the old rhythm of stealth and purpose. My hands remembered how to move, how to balance on narrow beams, how to hold my breath until the danger passed. My body might have been weaker, but my instincts, those were immortal. Willa turned down a corridor guarded by torchlight. I followed her out into the night. The garden stretched before me, drenched in moonlight. The air was cold and heavy with roses. She didn't hesitate, didn't look back, just walked straight toward the annex, the western wing of the palace reserved for guests of political interest. Which was the polite way of saying prisoners. They don't want to call prisoners. Kai. The name burned like poison on my tongue. I pressed myself against the stone wall. Breath sharp. My fingers found the old trellis, the same one the gardeners used to prune the vines, and I began to climb. Every muscle protested, trembling from effort, but I didn't stop. Each breath tasted like iron and ghosts. Halfway up, I froze. Voices drifted from the balcony above. Willa's voice smooth, composed, the voice of a spy who'd survived too many executions. The rebellion falters without you. Zara's orders were followed, but your mother is losing trust. Zara. My pulse stuttered. She's alive. I pressed closer, straining to hear. Kai's reply was colder, lower. My mother always mistakes ruthlessness for leadership. Arya's death wasn't her victory, it was mine. The world went still. Willa's breath caught. You're saying it wasn't Zara's idea? No, he said, voice laced with something that twisted my stomach. She ordered me to prove my loyalty, but killing Arya Storm wasn't obedience, it was release. I gripped the vine so tight it tore through my skin. Willa was silent, perhaps afraid of the thing standing before her, the charming golden wolf who'd once smiled beside campfires and called me pet. Kai laughed, soft and low. You think I didn't know she'd never love me? I made her. Every scar she earned, every mission, every kill, all of it, because I told her she was my equal. I wanted to scream. To throw myself through that window and tear out his throat with my bare hands. Instead, I listened. He kept speaking, every word cutting deeper. She lived for me. Every wound she took, every battle she fought, was devotion. And when I ended her, it was mercy. She belonged to me, mine to train, mine to kill, mine to keep. Mine to kill and mine to keep. The words echoed, crawling under my skin like frostbite. I remembered his hands holding mine after battles, his voice whispering promises of freedom. I remembered the night he'd pressed his forehead to mine and said, "You're the only one who understands me." All of it training, loyalty, friendship. None of it had been love. It had been conditioning, grooming. He hadn't raised a soldier. He'd built a weapon and named it Arya. I closed my eyes. For years I had believed in his cause, his mother, his war. I had given him everything, body, blood, soul, because I thought he saw me, but he'd only ever seen himself reflected in my obedience. The trellis creaked under my weight. I risked a glance upward. Through the open balcony doors, I saw him standing in full moonlight, golden hair glinting, his face carved in arrogance and ease. And beside him, Willa, quiet, unreadable. His gaze shifted suddenly, as though some invisible thread pulled him toward the window. And he saw me. For one heartbeat, neither of us moved. His lips curved into a slow, terrible smile, the same one he'd worn the night he drove a blade into my chest. "Arya," he whispered. I heard it as clearly as if he'd spoken in my ear. No. No. He couldn't see me. He couldn't know. I pressed closer to the wall, heart racing. He took one step forward, eyes locked on mine. The moonlight hit his irises, turning them molten gold. "Mine," he mouthed. Something inside me cracked. The trellis groaned. My grip slipped. The branch beneath my foot snapped like bone. And as I fell backward into the dark air tearing through my lungs, moonlight, flashing past my eyes, all I could think was how blind I'd been. How love and loyalty had never been the same thing. Then the world shattered into black. The fall didn't kill me, but it almost made me wish it had. I hit the ground hard shoulder first, breath knocked clean out of me. The vines broke my fall, but not gently. My palms were shredded, my knees bleeding, and for a few stunned seconds, I just lay there in the cold grass, listening to the sound of my own heartbeat, fast, uneven, desperate. The world was spinning moonlight above me. The smell of roses turned to iron in my mouth. Every breath came shallow and wrong. My vision blurred at the edges. And then it all came back. His voice, mine to kill and mine to keep. Those words dragged me backward through time, through memory, through everything I had built walls to forget. I saw Zara's face, my commander, my savior, my god, the one who had found me as a starving orphan and told me I was special. I could still hear her whisper, "Pain is a forge, Arya. I'll make you into steel." Steel, that's what I became. A weapon with a woman's face. The training had been endless, the cold mornings, the silence before each kill. She would hand me a blade, and every time I hesitated, she would strike me across the face and say, "Mercy is a disease of the weak." When I was 16, she sent me on my first mission, a rival alpha's family, including his mate. "No witnesses," she said. "No survivors." I obeyed. The image still haunts me, a mother shielding her cubs. I remember the smell of their fear. I remember throwing up behind the barn when it was done. And Zara had found me there, wiping blood from her hands, smiling faintly. "Don't mourn what you kill, child," she'd said. "You only destroy what the world shouldn't have loved." That was when Kai appeared, the golden wolf, Zara's prodigy, the one everyone adored. He'd knelt beside me, hand warm against the back of my neck. "You did well," he murmured. "You're safe now." Safe. Gods, what a lie. He started small comfort, praise, warmth. I thought he saw me. I thought he loved me. But every smile was a leash, every kiss a command. When I disobeyed, he'd whisper my failures in the dark. "You're nothing without me, Arya. I made you." And when he touched me, it wasn't love, it was ownership. The memory hit like fire. I doubled over in the grass, my stomach revolting. I vomited until there was nothing left. Tears followed ugly, shaking sobs that ripped through me with the force of a storm. The body I wore didn't matter, the soul inside it was breaking. Years of loyalty, love, devotion, all of it, revealed as manipulation. I had been molded, not loved, shaped, not cherished. I pressed my forehead to the earth. I hate you, I whispered to Zara, to Kai, to the person I had been. I hate what you turned me into. I didn't hear the footsteps until a shadow fell across me. Lysandra? I flinched. Rafe's voice quiet, cautious, careful. I tried to wipe my face, but my hands were shaking too hard. He crouched beside me. You're bleeding. I'm fine, I croaked. You're not. I wanted to tell him to leave, to go back to his perfect world of order, and laws, and honor. But something in his tone stopped me. He didn't sound like a prince, he sounded like a man who'd seen ghosts too. He shrugged off his cloak and draped it around my shoulders. The weight of it was grounding heavy, warm, real. I don't need. I know, he said gently. You don't have to. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't demand the truth or touch me without reason. He just stayed there, close enough that I could feel his presence, far enough that I could breathe. Something inside me loosened. The wolf, the one that had been pacing restlessly inside my chest for years, finally went still. Not out of fear. Out of recognition. I leaned into him before I realized I was doing it. His scent cedar and stormlight wrapped around me, anchoring me to the present. He didn't flinch, didn't speak, just wrapped an arm around me, slow and steady, and for the first time since I was a child, I let someone hold me without expecting pain. Tears came again, softer this time. I wept into his shoulder until the shaking stopped. Every sob pulled another thorn from the wound I'd been carrying too long. Rafe didn't say a word. His hand moved once. A quiet motion through my hair, not claiming, not comforting, just witnessing. The night stretched on. The air was cold, the moon merciless. But his warmth didn't fade. Eventually, exhaustion claimed me. My body trembled, my eyelids heavy. I felt the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath my ears, slow, sure, human. You should sleep, he whispered. I mumbled something. I don't even remember what before the words slipped out, raw and unguarded. I'm only safe when you're here. He went still. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his voice low, almost breaking. Then I'll stay. The last thing I felt was his hand, steady at my back, as the darkness finally let me rest. The night after the fall, the palace was quiet, too quiet. I woke to the scent of smoke, not the choking kind that kills, but the slow, sacred burn of a pyre. It drifted through the corridors, curling around my senses like memory. Something in me knew where to go before I even thought about it. I wrapped myself in a cloak and slipped through the shadows, following the smell of cedar and ash out toward the hills. And there he was. Rafe. Alone. He stood before a wooden pyre, the flames licking upward in ribbons of orange and gold. The fire didn't roar. It hummed reverent, steady, controlled. Beside it, laid across white linen, was a name etched into stone. Arya Storm. My name. I froze, half hidden behind an oak tree. My breath misting in the cold. He had built me a funeral. He didn't know I was alive, not really. Not as myself. And yet, he was here, burning wood for a woman he thought was his father's enemy. He looked different in the firelight, stripped of armor, stripped of authority. Just a man, standing before loss. The flicker of flame painted his face in shades of sorrow. He spoke softly, as though the night might judge him for speaking to the dead. She fought for what she believed in, he murmured. Even when she was wrong, she didn't bow. My throat closed. He bent to light a lantern, a single glass orb glowing faintly blue. He lifted it in both hands, eyes following its ascent as it drifted up, catching the wind. I wish I'd met her before the war, he whispered. Before the blood, maybe things could have been different. The words sliced through me, clean and quiet. Different. Gods. How many times had I imagined that word? A different past. A different Kai. A different me. But watching Rafe now honoring a ghost he never knew, I realized something I had never dared to believe. I mattered. Not as a weapon, not as a soldier, not as someone's possession or pawn. I mattered enough for my enemy to mourn me. The flames flared higher, and through the smoke I saw movement along the ridges beyond the palace walls. Dozens, no, hundreds of tiny lights rising in the distance. Lanterns. Lanterns across the hills, each one drifting into the sky, one by one, glowing like scattered stars. My people. My rebels. My pack. They were mourning too. For me. For the woman they thought had died. The sight hollowed me and filled me at the same time. I'd spent years believing my death would be convenient, a cleanup job in someone else's war. But this was proof that I'd left a mark. That even after the lies, the blood, the manipulation, I'd given the world something that endured. The will to fight for freedom. Rafe's voice broke the silence again. "The king will never know," he said softly. "I won't tell him she was more than a name. Let him think she was a villain. But she wasn't. She fought for what was right." He tossed another handful of herbs into the flames. The fire shifted, turning blue at its heart, the color of the old pack's mourning rites. Somehow, he knew. Tears burned behind my eyes. He was honoring the enemy his father hated, and I was hiding in the dark, too afraid to tell him the truth that I was standing 20 feet away, alive, broken, reborn. "I'll fight for you now," I whispered, the words trembling from somewhere deeper than my voice. Not for revenge, not for blood, but for peace. The wind carried my vow toward him, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was meant only for me, a promise spoken into the night that had seen too many broken ones. Rafe turned suddenly, his gaze sweeping the trees. For a second, I thought he saw me, his eyes, scanning the shadows with the same sharpness that had once terrified me on the battlefield. But he didn't call out, didn't move. He only lifted his head to the sky, watching the lanterns fade into distance. The firelight trembled across his features, grief, resolve, gentleness. And standing there in the dark, I realized this was the first time I had seen a man honor a woman without needing to own her. Something inside me shifted, slow, quiet, powerful. Not the fire of vengeance, but the warmth of purpose. I wiped the tears from my face and turned back toward the palace. The rebellion wasn't over, not while Kai and Zara still breathed. But this time, it wouldn't be rage that drove me. It would be the memory of a man who lit a pyre for his enemy, and a sky full of lanterns that proved she had never truly died. I should have known the peace wouldn't last. By evening, the palace hummed like a hive. Servants darted through corridors, carrying flowers, candles, and trays of wine. Musicians tuned their instruments in the grand hall. Every step echoed with the sound of anticipation. The night of my engagement had arrived. To them, it was celebration. To me, it was strategy. I was to be paraded, jeweled and smiling, before the nobles and the court, the pretty Omega who had secured the Alpha Prince's heart. They didn't know that beneath the silk and cosmetics stood a ghost plotting her own resurrection. Isolde came to my chamber just before sunset, carrying a small crystal vial. The liquid inside shimmered like molten amber. "This," she said, setting it on my vanity, "is a gift from the apothecary. A heat trigger tonic." I blinked. "A what?" Her expression hardened, though her tone was almost motherly. "You are an Omega, Lysandra. An engagement ball is not just politics, it's nature. This will help your body remember what power looks like when properly used." "Used?" I echoed. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Alphas respect instinct, not intellect. A little heat will remind Prince Raphael that you are desirable. Keep him tethered." My stomach turned. "That's manipulation. That's survival," she corrected, her voice dropping low. "Do not pretend this palace runs on honesty, my dear. Drink it when the moon rises." When she left, the vial caught the dying sunlight, liquid fire staring back at me. I sat there for a long time, staring at it. The woman I used to be, Arya Storm, would have crushed it under her boot. But the woman I had become understood something more dangerous. Power wears many faces. And sometimes, it smells like honey. By the time the first lanterns were lit, the ballroom was a sea of color and perfume. The chandeliers blazed, the musicians began their opening notes, and I stepped inside a stranger in my own body. The gown they'd chosen shimmered silver, hugging the form I barely recognized. Around my neck hung a small locket, delicate, carved with moon sigils. Inside it, a drop of concentrated toxin. My final defense. My last secret. A poison that kills only when the blood of both Alpha and Omega mix. A symbolic choice, and Omega's right to end what she cannot escape. I'd planned to use it if Kai cornered me again. Tonight, maybe that moment would come. Rafe found me before the ceremony began. He was dressed in black and gold, regal but unpretentious. The kind of man who didn't need a crown to command a room. When he saw me, something unspoken passed between us, recognition, warmth, a quiet promise. "You look," he started, then stopped, as though any word might ruin the moment. "Like a trap?" I offered lightly. That earned a small, genuine laugh, like the reason half the room just forgot how to breathe. He offered his hand. I took it. The orchestra swelled. He led me onto the floor, and the crowd parted instinctively. His touch was steady, his gaze locked on mine. We moved together in practiced rhythm, his control and my intuition meeting halfway between tension and surrender. For a moment, I forgot the ghosts, the war, the poison at my throat. For a moment, I simply felt. Then the heat began. It started as warmth beneath my skin, subtle, insistent. My pulse quickened, my body humming with a rhythm that wasn't mine. The potion. The air shifted. My senses sharpened. I could hear every heartbeat in the room, smell every emotion, fear, lust, jealousy, hunger. Rafe's scent wrapped around me like smoke and cedar. "Lysandra?" he murmured, noticing the tremor in my hand. "I'm fine," I lied, smiling too wide. But the heat kept climbing. Thoughts blurred, instincts clawing up from the part of me I'd buried, the Omega that wanted, that burned, that had no logic left to cling to. I could feel his heartbeat through our joined palms. My gaze flicked to his lips, then away, fighting the pull. And then the doors opened. A ripple of whispers spread through the hall. Kai had arrived. He looked every bit. The golden wolf tailored in midnight silk, eyes gleaming with arrogance. Guards followed him, though he hardly needed them. Power followed him wherever he went. The moment his gaze found me, the air changed. He inhaled once, slow and deliberate. And I knew he smelled it. The heat. My body's betrayal. His mouth curved into that same cruel smile that haunted my nightmares. He walked straight toward us. Rafe stiffened beside me, but Kai only stopped a few feet away, his tones smooth, mocking. "May I steal your bride for a dance, Your Highness?" It wasn't a question. Rafe looked at me, searching, hesitant. I met his eyes. Behind his concern, there was trust. And behind my calm, there was fire. This was the moment. I turned back to Kai, my heartbeat slowing, my voice even. "Of course," I said, extending my hand. His smirk deepened as his fingers brushed mine, heat meeting heat, poison meeting purpose. Inside my chest, something cold and sharp clicked into place. The trap was set. "Surely," I said, with a smile that felt like war, "one dance wouldn't hurt."